Before I started filming, I did do a little bit of work. I added a primer to my face. I use Revlon Photo Ready, but you can use anything that you prefer. I also went ahead and I did the same thing for my eyes. I put on L'Oreal's Magic Decrease Eyelid Primer. You don't have to do this. I just think especially for an evening look, I like to try to make sure that I put something on my face to help the makeup go on smoothly. I also started with a little bit of foundation on already, but I'll go through that a little bit more. I use a L'Oreal product for my foundation, but you can use whatever you like. You just want to start by putting a little bit of the foundation on the back of your hand. And I like to use brushes to apply my foundation. And this is a stipple brush. You just want to get a little bit of the foundation on the brush and then apply it to your face. Now, the 30s, you want to take whatever your baseline complexion is and go just a shade lighter. Having a more of a pale look was what women would have gone for during the 30s. Now, every woman is different today, and it would have been the same during the 30s. So your day look, your evening look, they're all going to vary from person to person. But what I'm recreating for you today, right now, is more of an evening look. After you apply the foundation with a stipple brush, I like to use this foundation brush to go back in and just make sure that everything is blended together. All nice and smooth so that I have a really good foundation before I start putting the other stuff on. And as always, I want to make sure that you get your jawline so that there aren't any lines. So there we go. Now, in the 30s, women would have used a Vaseline to go on before they would have put on a powder. They didn't have the liquid products that we have today, and there was a little bit, they liked having a little bit of a shine, so they would have used Vaseline instead and then used a powder for their face. But I'm going to show you how to use modern products to get the same effect. So the next thing that I'm going to do is put on the powder now that I have my liquid foundation on my face instead of Vaseline. And I am using L'Oreal's True Match for the powder that I'm going to put on. And I just like to start with making sure that I highlight certain features, like my cheekbones and my forehead and of course my chin. Make sure I'm not shiny in those spots. All right, next, I'm going to show you how to do a 30s eyebrow and how to sort of cheat with how we tend to have the modern shape of eyebrows today. So a 30s eyebrow was very thin and very long. It actually would extend further out past where your sort of natural line is for your eyebrow. Some women would have actually taken off the hair and drawn on a very thin line in an arch for their eyebrow, but that's not quite the look that we use today. So, and I don't like to shave my eyebrows off, so I'm going to show you how to draw and on so you get the extended eyebrow, and then I'm going to show you how to sort of take the hairs that are already there so that you can create a thin arch without actually having to pluck or do anything else. So you're going to take your eyebrow pencil, and I am using a Maybelline eyebrow pencil called Master Shape. And you're just going to start filling in so that you darken your eyebrows. Women in the 30s would have used a kohl pencil to fill in their eyebrows or draw it on, as I mentioned earlier. and you're just going to extend a little bit past the natural line. And then you're going to do the same on the other side. And everyone's eyebrows are different on each side, so you just kind of have to work with each one. All right, once I have it filled in, I just take the edge, the other end of the pencil, and I brush them like so to get everything smooth. It also helps to kind of spread out a little bit of the pencil product that you've just filled in. And then from there, I start working the eyebrow into more of an arch shape from the underneath. And then I also take at the top and push the hairs down so that it becomes thinner. And that's how we accomplish that thinner brow look without having to do anything permanent. Now once that I get it brushed, there's a cheat, and that's to make sure that they stay in place, and I use hairspray on the end of the brush to go back in and really make sure that arch and that the hairs stay in place. If you don't like using hairspray on your eyebrows, you don't have to, but I just like making sure that they stay secure. All right, so there we go. There's my eyebrow. The modern take on a 30s eyebrow. Okay, next we're going to apply blush, and I like to use L'Oreal True Match, which I have here. They would have had cream based blushes in the 30s. There isn't a lot of color palette available, but they would have used like a lighter pink color to put on their cheekbones, and where they're applying it really has a lot to do with the look. A technique for the 30s where a woman would sort of determine where the best place would be to place her blush, she would have used ice packs, and then wherever her cheeks got rosy from the cold of the ice pack is where they would know to put and highlight their cheekbones. But I'm not going to do that today, so I'm just going to, I know where I need to highlight. So you want to like feel for your cheekbone if you're not sure. And the very top of your cheekbone is where you're going to apply the blush, and you're going to go up high onto the cheek area up next to where your eye is at, because they would have really had a high cheekbone highlighted in the 30s. So I just like to use this type of blush brush. I like the angled section because I think it helps me with applying where I need to on the cheekbone. And then once I do that, I just take the other end and I sort of like blend it in a little bit better. And then you just sort of go back in as your comfort level is with however much blush that you like to wear. You just sort of go in and add it in. I'm adding a little bit more. Like I said, it's an evening event, and so that it can show up a little bit, I'm pale, and so that it can show up a little bit better on the video, I'm adding a little bit more blush than I normally would. Okay. Now that I have my blush on, I'm going to move to the eye. So for a 30s eye, they didn't have eyeliner until 1938. So once they had the soft kohl like eyeliner that they'd be applying to the eye, they would have used like a white eyeliner to go on the under, only on the under part of the eye. So they would have applied a little bit of white eyeliner there in the corner of the eye, and right above, on the lower lid, right above the lash line. Okay, and I just used another L'Oreal product. Their Eye Illuminator eyeliner is what I like to use if I'm applying white eyeliner anywhere on my eye. As far as eyeshadows, they did have sparkly eyeshadows, and it was very normal for there to be like a soft, a very soft pink or soft brown sparkly eyeshadow that they would have applied on the whole eyelid. So that's what I'm going to do now. And I'm actually using two color palettes to get the look, the evening look that I want. One is a L'Oreal, it's called Rose for Romance, and that has the really soft shimmery pink that I'm going to apply all over my eye. Okay, now that I have my shimmery base color on my entire eye, for an evening look, I'm going to add another color. Grays, browns, and orchids, plums, were used on the eye in the 30s. So I'm going to start with a brown. And for the 30s eye, they are only applying the color into the crease of your eye, and then they smudge it out. So I'm going to start by just showing you where you're going to place. I just have this type of brush that I'm using to apply the makeup into the crease. I just find that it's easier, whichever brush that you are most comfortable with applying eyeshadow. It's the way to go. Women didn't start wearing makeup in the United States on a daily basis until the 20s. So when you think about it, by the time that the 30s phase comes around, you only have like a decade of really it being a practice for women to wear makeup at all times. And there's definitely an evolution of that from the 20s to the 30s. There would have been a little bit more eye makeup with grays and browns in the 20s, and the 30s face becomes a little bit more of a softer eye. There's not as much eye makeup on the actual eye, unless you're in the movies, and then that's a very different type of makeup that they're applying. I just take my finger and I sort of smudge, which is something that they would have done. They would have just smudged the crease. And then I'm going to go back in and add that orchid color. And I'm using a L'Oreal product called Sultry Seductress that helps me get that orchid color that they would have used. Both of these products are nice because they have the right grays and browns and pinks and orchids that would have been used. So I'm just going to, it's like I said, this is an evening look, so that's why I'm adding the orchid in I have blue eyes, so I think that that sort of highlights the blue of my eye, and then I'm going to be wearing a blue dress. And so for the evening, the orchid is fun. Like I said, if you are looking for more information about how to recreate this look, the vintage face book that I showed earlier actually takes you through the process step by step so that you understand like where they would have applied the eyeliner, the eyeshadow, and how to recreate the look yourself. And then it has all of the information about the colors that they would have used. All right. Next, I'm going to put on mascara to highlight my eyes. And I am using a Maybelline product called 1x1 Volume Express. You just go in and apply the mascara. I like to put one coat on and then kind of let it dry for a second. I also help get rid of like the makeup clumps, or help break apart my eyelashes by using like the eyebrow eyelash brush. I just go in and sort of take those clumps off delicately and separate things out. And then I go in and I apply the second coat so that I get the volume. That I like. All right. And that is, so far, that's the 30s eye. The most important thing for the 30s, as well as the 40s, is the lipstick. So I'm using, to create this look, I'm using a Revlon lipstick. And this particular color is called Wine with Everything. The lip colors that would have been worn by women in the 30s would have been, it changes over the decade. So earlier in the decade, you have more of a limited color with just pinks. By the end of the decade, there have more plums and reds that they're using. And the important thing about the 30s lip is it's more of like a Cupid's, what they call a Cupid's bow. So depending on your lip shape, you might have to go in and fill in more of your lip through this section so that it has more of a full look. Now, something that we don't have in the 30s face is they're not applying lip liner. So women are actually changing how their lips look by actually how they apply the lipstick to the lips. Today, if you want to make, depending on your lip shape, if you want to go in and add more, you can use a lip liner to fill out your lips so that you have that Cupid's bow look. I have somewhat full lips, so I'm just going to go and show you the technique of using the actual lipstick tube to define the lip first. So you just go in with the tip of the lipstick tube, and I like to start with my upper lip with the arch to really sort of get the upper lip defined. And so you just start on the outside, and this is very true to how they would have applied their lipstick. And then I go to the bottom lip and I do the same. All right, and then they would have taken the lipstick and filled in the rest of the lip. Now for an evening look, they would have used Vaseline to give a little bit of shimmer to the lip. And I just use a clear gloss to go in and add a little bit of that like glossy look. And then I just sort of check, make sure that I have my lipstick on where I want it, and then ta-da, you're finished. You have a 1930s look recreated with modern products that you can find at any store.